turning back.
Welcome back to the Lost Boy Scouts podcast.
Yes.
Back in studio. What does that mean?
Back in studio. Quasi-studio, right? We're above the studio.
Mhm.
It means I'm home.
Home.
It means I'm home. Made it 30 days in the hospital.
Was it 30 days? Did you
Almost to the day.
Wow.
It would have been, if I would have stayed one more day, it would have been 31.
Wow.
And the doctors have their stuff. Yeah. I am a little bit of a bubble boy still. Not really allowed to be, shouldn't really be about, I don't have a huge
Immune system.
Yeah.
Is it just because the poison is still in the system, or is it because your immune system's so low?
Yeah, they knocked the immune system down so low that I still have, there's nothing there. There's no antibodies, the free antibodies. That's what really keeps you healthy. And
Are you to be taking probiotics then as we speak, or what should you be doing?
I don't really know. They gave me a list of stuff I can't do. They didn't really, can't be around people that cough. Get out. No. I mean, yeah, really, like, I should keep myself separate. It's really like COVID restrictions.
Okay.
A little bit, right? Like, keep my distance from people. I wear a mask. Like, I went to the office today and I wore a mask.
Okay.
I made sure that everybody was healthy when I was in, like, we had the only reason I went is because we had a big meeting today, like, big quarterly meeting. I think for everybody's morale, they were all hyped that I was there.
Wow. What a crazy
Dude, I didn't tell you.
experience, huh?
Thursday, like the day I was supposed to get discharged. I'm like so excited. I'm like,
Did you know?
they've been kind of alluding to, the nurses have been kind of alluding. Obviously, it's up to the attending physician. The biggest thing was on Tuesday, I had my second bone marrow biopsy. That's where they like drill into your back, they take some bone marrow, and they send it off to a lab. That test takes 2 to 3 days to get the results back from. So it was looking like I was healthy enough. Monday, my ANC had jumped. All my other counts were looking so good. We were just kind of waiting for my ANC to kind of get to that level. Well, Monday it hit 0.7, which is huge. We had the goal of 0.5.
It went 0.7.
0.7.
Whoa.
It kind of knocked down to 0.6. The doctor's like, no, I thought 0.7 was kind of high. Like, it's fine. We're right in that range. Tuesday, 0.6. She's like, let's do this bone marrow biopsy. So I had to fast all Monday night. I'm fasting. They take me down like at 3 p.m. I've been basically fasting since 9 p.m. the night before.
Whoa.
Which no big deal, right? But you're like, food is all I was really looking forward to in the hospital. Like, that was not the hospital food, but all the
Yeah, that was your pinnacles of the day.
Yeah, food.
Yeah.
Like, what am I gonna order? That and that they started letting me go outside a little bit more.
Okay.
But I think they could tell. Right? Tyler was walking laps around the nurse's station, and they were like, Tyler's got the zoomies. Tyler's got the zoomies again. So Thursday rolls around. I'm so excited. I'm like, I gotta tell the kids. I wasn't going to tell the kids. I'm like, I'm going to tell the kids. Wednesday night, I'm like, I call them. I'm like, guess what? Everything's looking like I'm going to get out tomorrow. Everything is looking like I'm going to get out tomorrow. Okay. I'm getting out. Tell my dad. Tell my mom. I kept it. Just those few people.
Sure.
Those people got that info. Thursday runs around, and the doctors are all in rotation. So I have 4 or 5 doctors. Every doctor has either a PA, a physician's assistant, or an LPN. Right then.
There you go.
Yeah, my lips. Everything is flaky.
Chappy.
Yeah, I'll have to. That's a whole nother story. Everything is chappy. Everything is like flaking off.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, the LPN comes in Thursday morning and he's like, "Yeah, just my interpretation of the interpretation of the
Charts.
The charts is your blasts are still way too high for you to be leaving today." And like, I think it was like the air got knocked out of me, like in the wind knocked out of you. And I had Nina back, whose kids are down at Park City.
Okay.
I had her that day, and she's like, she came in the room to take my vitals or something. I think she could tell that it was dark.
Yeah.
It was grumpy in there. And so like, I'm calling my mom and calling my dad. I'm like, I guess I shouldn't have told the kids. And she comes in. She's like, don't listen to him. Wait for the attending to get here. They know how to read the charts better. And so about 2 or 3 hours later, he comes back in.
The same guy.
Same guy. And he's kind of got his tail between his legs. And he's like, yeah, I was actually reading the wrong chart.
Oh.
And I was just like, immediately it was like, back up. I'm like, hell yeah, we still might be getting out here today. He was really embarrassed. He came in. He owned the mistake.
Okay.
And then finally, the main doctor, the doctor that checked me in when I first got to the hospital, originally, she came in and she's like, "Do you want to go home today? I heard you had a little bit of a issue, a little bit of a roller coaster ride there." And she's like, "Let's get you out. Let's get you out today." So they pulled my PICC line. Mom came and picked me up.
What did you think? Like, I mean, what a fast, surreal experience, correct? I mean, like, it's surreal, right? But surreal for me because, like, it only seems like yesterday that I see
Right.
you with the bruises, right?
Yeah.
And then it was like, hey, I'm on my way to the cancer ward. I have leukemia. It seems like it was just yesterday, right?
It seems so crazy fast. When I look at like the whole 30 days, I was like, that was probably the fastest 30 days of my life.
Yeah.
Living it, like sitting there tied to those machines was terrible. And like huge credit. And if you follow the Substack, I wrote a huge thank you to them. Huge credit to the nurses and the staff and people that came and visited me. Man, there wasn't a day that really went by where I didn't have a visitor. Somebody there. That was awesome. I mean, you were there. I mean, Preston showed up. My dad would stop by on his way to work, and I had kids I went to high school with that I've been friends with that showed up.
Really?
I had a buddy from Arizona I went to high school with. He's like, "Hey, I heard you're out, but I'm gonna come hang out with you for a couple of days."
That's insane.
And I just like, man.
And you were still probably a little overwhelmed by it all too, because like it's still you're still living this nightmare of a scenario.
Yeah.
Truthfully.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A nightmare of a scenario. Like it's not like you were like all happy go lucky normal Tyler of like jovial spirits.
Yeah.
Stoked. There was times when I'd call you and I'd be like, "Oh,
yeah,
a rough day," or a text message.
Yeah.
That would come through and it's like, "Oh yeah, he's kind of in a moment," right? And you can tell like when people are in a moment. But rightfully so.
Yeah.
Like insane how crazy that thing was. Like to be told that you have cancer the way that it was.
Right.
And
just how quickly it escalated.
How quickly it was. I mean, that day that I seen you and the bruising and the way that the bruising looked the next time I seen you was like, wow, this is real. This is a real life situation that, we're not prepared for as friends, as brothers, as this world that we live on,
right?
And this world that we live in with together, right? Like, where we are, for all intents and purposes, best friends, brothers, right?
Yeah.
And we know so much about each other, but it was weird to be like, oh, he's down in Salt Lake, and I'm here. My life is going on, and you know that, people know that your life is going on, but your life stops for a moment.
Yeah, like frozen. It felt a lot like, I mean, to be honest, it felt like COVID.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the only thing I have to compare it to. It felt like I was back in the COVID times, lockdown, isolated. Even to leave my room, I had to have, the mask on, the gloves on, and my little smock on.
I remember watching people walk around, and what's even tougher to swallow sometimes is you're not the worst case.
No.
In that ward.
And to be honest, it was one of those things where it was, you could see those people and I could just be grateful. I could be grateful that like, I mean, to backstep, like do you watch 314?
No.
The UFC 314.
Oh yeah. I did.
And then to watch the Volkanovski Lopez fight. And the first thing out of Volkanovski's
adversity is a privilege.
Adversity is a privilege. And like that. I mean, as if I had to, there was nothing I could do to face it. I just had to face it. Yeah. But I could see these other people, and I could say, "Thank God I don't have what they have.
Yeah.
Thank God I'm not getting a bone marrow transplant. Thank God I'm not having to get radiation therapy. Yes, they are dumping arsenic poison into my body. I've got a 2-week break between now and when I start my outpatient treatment.
Okay.
But like, I am blessed to not be
when you can see, when you're in the cancer ward, you can see all different walks of life and all different walks of what people are going through. It's somber moments for family members, because I came in there and I've got treats and gifts, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to see my friend who I know is going to be happy to see me. But you'll walk around there sometimes and you'll see somebody and you're like, that person is like probably pretty bummed out by the look on their face, by the way that they're carrying themselves, by their demeanor, that they're not happy.
Yeah.
And most likely that their loved one is going through something that's very, very scary. When you walk past and you can see, in that ward, you could see in people's rooms sometimes because their blinds would be a little open and you're looking and that person is like staring off. I remember this. I still clearly, vividly, the person to your, like if I'm looking at your door to your left, I can see in that room. I'm not sure what they had or what they did, but I remember looking in there a couple times when I was there, and they were staring off to the distance in this like just this gaze of like staring off. But it almost looked like, gosh, man, I'd like to give that person a hug because it looks like they're just in the moment, right?
They were that young lady that was there. I ran into her a couple times in the hallways as she was walking her laps. She always had visitors, but yeah, she was definitely going through a hard time. There were moments when our doors would be open at the same time and you hear her just in there, just moaning, just miserable. I don't know exactly what she had. What I do know is that like Utah, both at University of Utah, the Huntsman Center, and then where I was at LDS, they're two of the best in the country as far as blood-borne cancers are concerned. And yeah, she was in a bad way. The only people that were possibly worse than us was there's a little room just before you went into my little area. That's an anteroom where it's negatively pressurized. Like all of our rooms are positively pressurized, meaning like they're kind of sealed off, right? Like it's actively, theirs were like negatively sealed off. So like they were really like in a bubble. They were like in a bubble because they had something like pneumonia or COVID. They had like a sickness on top of the sickness. Oh. And you never saw those people. I mean, I never saw them come out. The nurses would go in there in full
regalia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the experience when you look back on it is best case scenario for you.
Yeah.
And also like a wake up call of, call to arms of what you need to do going forward, right? Like what like, hey man, like life is fragile. Right? We know that. We know life is fragile. We've talked about death before. We've talked about the fact that we understand that life is fragile and we've had crazy experiences, and sometimes your way of dealing with things is cracking a joke or something.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not always the right answer.
Right.
Right. Cracking jokes is funny, but it's not always the right answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so sometimes we need to be a little more sensitive to the fact that like life is fragile.
Yeah.
And this moment of time that we just went through was a pretty fragile time of our life.
It's different. Like, right. We faced mortality with the loss of Nick. Right. And I thought, here we are. I'm done. Like I thought extensively about what I would do losing a brother. Sure. Now I'm faced with this actual disease that has a 5% chance of taking my life. That's pretty, it's not 5%, like 5% could be walking down the street,
sure.
But like, this is a toxic, actively trying to kill me in my body type of scenario. Right. And so, yeah, here I am facing mortality again, and it's just that much closer. And, you just have to stop. And, hearing Volk say that, like adversity is a privilege, just, you laugh. You're kind of like, yeah, right. Adversity sucks. Nobody likes to be, adversity, it blows. But it is. It's really where growth. It's really where growth happens.
Sure.
It's really where growth happens.
And adversity is anything.
Yeah.
That is a wall.
Right.
That you need to be able to go through.
Right. We have our comfort zone.
Yeah.
And then we have like way out of our comfort zone. And then there's like that small inner circle that's somewhere in between. And that's kind of where we want to be on the bleeding edge of our fear.
Yeah.
Just on the outside of our comfort zone.
And you always want to be pushing the limits in a couple of ways, right? Learning, pushing the limits of like growth, pushing the limits of like who you are as a man, and then now being able to be comfortable in yourself and in your skin for a moment of just like, okay, all right, you have went through adversity, But you don't need to go through adversity tomorrow
Yeah.
either. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need to maybe like enjoy the day tomorrow and
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally. And the big thing for me was like letting my guard down and like letting somebody take care of me.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? Like letting people come bring me food, letting people come visit, letting the nurses do their thing. Like, um, you know what I mean? Like it'd be very easy to push against, and even coming home and having my mom, stay an extra couple of days and help out around the house. She's like, I don't want you going back down to do your same old things, right? Like, one of the things I do have to be aware of, and that's why we're sitting up here, is like things like dust, right? Like who knows what's in that dust that could, potentially cause an infection, and then I would be one of those people in that negatively pressurized room that's sick, and now we're battling that infection plus this killer, this other killer cancer. And I think that's the thing. Like people hear cancer, and it's scary. I just happen to get very very lucky with the type that I have.
Acute proteolytic
Leukemia.
ACL.
A-
No, APL.
APL
APL.
or APML, microloid. Like it's weird depending on how you look it up. There's another form uh, of leukemia. There's several different forms, but it's a PML, I believe, as well as another way of looking at it.
APML.
Yeah.
And like we talked about last time, interesting enough, you get arsenic.
Yeah.
The Chinese brought that to America.
Right. It's so crazy. I was talking to a coworker today, and she was like, "Yeah, my grandma killed herself with arsenic." I'm like, "I need to hear this story." She's like, "I'm headed to a meeting, but we'll talk about it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I need to hear this story."
Did you do that?
Yeah.
Whoa. And so when you leave the hospital, the nurses lined up and they see you off, and they're like, "Hey, don't come back."
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I got to be really good friends with a lot of them, right? A lot of them. They are incredibly caring people.
Oh, yeah.
It's an incredible group of women, mostly a few men, right? Who they're like on my floor. They're just not you're not your typical nurse. They're not your typical RN. They have specific training around cancer. Okay. Right. So they've taken extra training, and they're dealing with like the sickest of the sick. They're cleaning up the person that's vomited and couldn't get to the toilet or the barf bag or whatever. They're an incredibly compassionate people, and from what I hear, like it's one of the best floors to work on. It's like one of the most rewarding floors to work on. It has to be, because they get to see incredible success stories. And
yeah, and be a part of it, right?
Yeah,
and be a part of something that's so terrifying and beautiful and scary, and all of those emotions that you can feel with something like this, right?
Yeah.
Because like you said, you do hear cancer, you do see cancer, and you're like, ugh,
yeah,
holy crap,
yeah,
what the world?
Yeah.
F cancer. That's all I think about is
right. It is. It sucks. Because that's the thing. Like there's I have no idea how I could have caught it. Right. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no there's tons of projection on what I think it could be. Could it be radon? Could it be who knows? We do know it was something environmental that triggered this genetic mutation, right? That the possibility of this mutation was sitting somewhere in my DNA, and it was activated by some external.
Do you have to then have the kids?
There's I don't know that there's necessarily a test
for them to
even know. I don't know if it's like passed down genetically like that. I don't think that's how it happens. I think you either have the marker or you don't have the marker. But again, there's so much I don't understand, and I could tell that all my doctors were trying to dumb it down. Not many of them traveled with crayons. I think it would have been helpful if they would have marked it up with some markers and crayons and given me a coloring book. But they did the best they could at educate you in 30 days to make me feel like an expert.
Yeah. So now you're back to work.
I'm back to work. Yeah, I just felt too healthy to take disability.
Sure.
Right now, like I thought, like, to be honest, I would just go crazy. If I were just sitting there, I would have just gone crazy. Um, and I'm lucky enough to work for a type of company that has remote work that I can do from a laptop, that I can do in between treatments. Like knowing my treatment schedule will allow me to schedule my treatments and my work around that kind of stuff. So
And so, do you feel like run down? Do you feel like you can sleep now because you're in your bed? Do you feel like you're um, you are settling back because now you've been home for what's that, almost a week now?
this week, yeah,
So
Thursday will be a week, right? So yeah, I feel like I'm sleeping better. I'm also I haven't received arsenic since that time either. So I don't know what the half life is on it. I definitely
steroids, definitely you were getting a
yeah, I
lot of
was getting a
steroids.
ton of steroids. They actually weaned me off the last week before I was there, which is good because those things were keeping me awake.
Yeah, that's a full adrenaline rush. Right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I do feel like I'm sleeping better. I feel like I'm waking up better. It'll be interesting to see the difference. Like once I go back to outpatient, they have told me that I can take my outpatient treatment in Park City,
Oh, good.
which is huge
It is huge
because it's about what an hour
Yep.
from door to door from my house to downtown Salt Lake,
Yeah.
where I was where I was. Um,
What so they'll have when you go there, you're there for a week or you're just there for a
it's
day?
outpatient. It's outpatient, so I'll be there just the hours that I need to take the arsenic, and then I'll be able to come.
Are they doing blood platelets at that point?
No, the blood platelets and blood products were only to stabilize my blood.
Which is really just like an infusion, right?
Yeah.
They're cycling new blood in there to get the old blood out.
I got 28 different blood products within really the first few days that I was there. They pretty much stopped giving me blood products by about week 2. I think there was a couple
Could you
times.
request like certain? Could I get Lance Armstrong's blood products? Could I get some?
Can I get some blood doping?
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Can I get a little bit of his blood?
I need a blood boy, somebody young with
yeah, like what is that show? What is that show with the vampires? That's why the vampires do the blood, right? It keeps them young. What is that show? Twilight? Is that right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, Twilight. I think that's the premise of the vampires is to keep them young, right? That's what keeps them young or keeps them alive. Blood. So, and a better pure blood.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What a journey. Life, right?
Right.
I mean, life. This is literally life. This is, and now that we're on, 2.5 years of doing this, people are now going to be able to like watch our lives.
Yeah.
And let's say it's, I was thinking about this the other day. Let's say it's the first time you've heard the episode of us and they don't have any, they don't know any reference to us. Maybe they happen upon it and they start listening to it. Next thing you know, they're like watching this life unfold.
Yeah.
It's almost like, it's on the TV. It's like this sitcom that we're going through of life. And it's interesting that we have this now stamps of our lives that like for generations, people will be able to go back and listen to and be able to remember those moments and capture those moments of like how we felt, what we were going through, and it's life is one of those things where I think like you're crazy to think that life is easy. You're crazy to think that the adversity isn't your privilege, right?
Yeah.
Because the next thing that happens is going to be worse.
Mm-hmm.
And you better have some strong elasticity or, you're going to break.
Yeah.
And so God gives you all these tasks and all these assignments and it's like, okay, I'm ready for another one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have to look at it. You have to change. You have to change. This is happening to me. You have to change the mindset from this is happening to me to this is happening for me.
Sure.
And I think that was one of those things I decided very early on in my stay at the hospital. This is not happening to me. This is happening for me. There is something amazing that's going to happen because of this.
Yeah, this is not the best thing that's happened to me in my life.
Right. It's definitely not, but it's happening for a reason. And what is this telling me? I mean, I don't know if you're a fan of Norse mythology, but like Odin, he plucked out his own eye in order to see the future,
Yeah.
right? And that future was knowledge, right? He had knowledge. He had knowledge of the future, and that's what made him a god, right? Like that's the story behind what made him a god, that knowledge. And so for me, like this knowledge about myself, about how tough I am, what I can put up with, what I can recover from, it just makes me closer to becoming the best version of myself, the most pure version of myself. So,
Yeah, for sure. And with all of that being said, like you had you did keep for the most part a really good spirit about
yeah, there. I'm not. It's not. Wasn't without its dark days for sure. Wasn't there? There were definitely some dark moments.
it for sure.
There was definitely, you know, I always like to be honest. Like the nurses kind of set set
The tone, yeah.
they definitely set the tone, right?
Yeah.
Like if they come in and they're happy and they're like, they're easy to talk to, like, ooh, that made me all that much more exciting. If they were like, there was a couple times I got some night nurses that were just like all business, you know what I mean? They just didn't we just didn't click. Like I definitely felt them bring the energy.
The energy down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I seen one of the nurses left you a message saying that she was stoked at you
Yeah.
that you got out.
Made a lot of good friends in the hospital, and some wanted to know what I did, so we talked a lot about the podcast. They're in and out of your room, like they work 12-hour shifts, so 7 to 7 I have the same nurse.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And typically the way they work, they have a 3-day shift or a 4-day shift, and then they're off, right? So usually what would happen is for their 3 or 4 days on cycle, they try to maintain the same patients.
Oh.
I think for the most part, like I was getting the same people, day after day after day.
Okay.
Right? Like so, it's and then they go on their break, and then chances are they come back, and it's like, oh, Tyler's still here, so they
I'll go hang out.
yeah. I mean, I'd like to think it was me, but like you know what I mean. I think for continuity of what they have to do, what they have to remember.
Yeah, it's probably a little easier.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, and it's better for the patient to kind of just see a familiar face and
Sure.
somebody who kind of understands. The same with the aides. They have all of you kind of go through a progression, right? They have a nurse's aide. They're the ones that are in charge of doing kind of the less glamorous jobs.
Oh, maybe like going in there and finding out what you had for dinner.
Unfortunately, hey, they needed that sample, and as try as I might, like I was like everything I could do not to give it to them, like just to be like, oh yeah, I haven't gone. Finally, they were like, you got to do this. They filled me up with Miralax and stool softener. It was like, I got it. Yeah. And I mean, also obviously all the drugs too. They back you up, right? All the drugs they give you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They just stop you up.
Yeah,
and it's pain. It gets painful. You're just like, oh.
I think
because all you're doing is eating.
And that's funny because not that this reminds me of that, but like I think that's the same thing with like drug addicts.
Oh yeah,
they get backed up.
Yeah,
and they're like they when they finally release the hounds, it's like let's go.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
opioids. I think that's the common thing with opioids for sure. I don't
for sure. I think that's what it is.
I wasn't on a lot of. I think I took 2 nights. I asked for something stronger than Tylenol just because my back was all.
Yeah, you're laying on that hard ass bed.
Yeah,
not sitting comfortably.
When I was bruised, everything was bruised. I made the mistake of letting Cozy use the Theragun on me Monday night because I was like, my back's just stiff.
Did you breathe again?
Yeah. Oh no, that first Monday before I even went into the hospital, and yeah, I was bruised all over the place.
So now outlook and stuff. When can you resume? Do you know when you can resume jiu-jitsu, when you can go back to?
I think jiu-jitsu for me is going to be one of those things where they say your ANC is high enough. I have a feeling that my ANC is going to get knocked down a little bit again when I get started on the outpatient stuff. My hope is that I'm healthy enough to, at some level, volunteer just to help at camp. I don't think I'll be able to participate on mats, but if I could help run the camera, run the clock, run something, perhaps that I can be healthy enough to do that. I've also signed up both as a couple of things as a volunteer and as an ambassador. We're working on getting the podcast to become an ambassador for Tap Cancer Out,
Okay.
the Jiu-Jitsu 501c3.
Okay.
It's the one that sponsor like that CJI was the biggest contributor of last year.
Okay.
And they run tournaments all across this country. There's no tournament here in Salt Lake.
What the heck?
Yet.
Let's go.
So we're working with them. So I'm going to hopefully be out in Denver running a clock or doing something with them in late June.
Oh, okay.
I actually think it's the week before camp. So those are the two things I'm kind of looking forward to. Hopefully being healthy enough to just observe, maybe not necessarily participate.
Still be around it and part of the community.
Yeah. I would really like to get back in and at a minimum, like help you with class. You know what I mean? Like it's hard with those kids because they're just freaking petri dishes.
Yeah, they are.
But
don't go around the kids.
But
they're gross.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm hoping that just to figure out how I can stay close and connected because it's important to me. I think there wasn't a person that didn't reach out from the academy,
sure,
and say something. Like everyone that I've known or made friends with the last 3 years there has reached out, pretty much.
So if one of the kids is sick, then they have to stay away. You just need to wear a mask. And I'm talking about your children.
Probably what they would need to do. It would be the safest for them to stay with Cammy.
Yeah.
Or quarantine, and I'll wear a mask. And I don't know. I'm hoping that we're getting into summertime.
Not so much vitamin D in us.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got teased with a couple of warm days, and I think it's gonna get cold next a couple of days, but that's okay because I think most of the snow is on the ground is gone. I think it's gonna stay gone.
Yeah.
We've been able to be in the sun a little bit more. I got the bus out driving
a
couple times. Yeah.
Nice.
I go and hang out with Misty.
Yeah.
At the spa regularly, and the other day I went over there and there were some people from out of town, and I was showing one of the guys the bus, and before I knew it, the other people came out and they wanted to sit in there, pretend like they were driving it. They were video recording themselves, roll down the window, sitting in there. They spent about 15, 20 minutes taking pictures of the bus and like pretending like they were, driving the bus, hanging out on the bus. And the guy was like, man, see, you can make money on this. And it's like, yeah, maybe, like one day, maybe, but I don't mind just letting people sit in there for free and just tagging me.
Yeah.
There is a similar bus, pretty much the exact same as mine, just without the rhino lighting. But I mean, it's for all intents and purposes. If you looked at it and looked at mine, it's called the Burn Slow Bus.
Oh yeah.
The Instagram handle, I think, Burn Slow Bus.
Oh.
And they are currently driving from the Baja Coast right now.
Oh, sick.
So I watched their little clips on the social media, throughout the day. He was driving in the sand on the beach the other day, and he was talking about it, and I was like, I just sent him a message. Hey, what size tires are you running? And like maybe 20 minutes later, boom, he responded, and I was like, this is crazy. That, him and I are talking. So I sent him a picture of my bus and told him, hey, I'm thinking of doing the same thing of driving down Baja in our bus. And he's like, it's the perfect rig for it. It gets anywhere you want to go. And, we talked a little bit more, and him and I have been chatting back and forth, which is kind of cool. Like that little tiny connector puts you in contact with people.
Right. Micro communities. Yeah, these micro communities, man.
And that's what I think about with these little things that we do, these little projects that we have, is just keeping our reach out there, keeping our face out there, keeping our names out there, keeping the fact that we are promoting healthy lifestyles, right?
Yeah.
And with what just happened, your healthy lifestyle habits or non-habits will either one get you through it or two bite you in the ass, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that your healthy habits will, the fact that your body did what it was supposed to do is by the fact that you're, for most intents and purposes, healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that promotion of those things is what I think about.
Yeah.
What I take away from this last 30 days is like, man, go get, don't just be like,
Right.
I think that pain will go away. That pain in my balls, that lump in my
Yeah.
balls, my butt hurts, or like
Yeah.
these weird things, I've got bruising on my
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
You're like, it'll go away. It'll go away. No,
Yeah.
it won't go away. And man, if you're not careful, it could get worse, right?
Yeah.
And that's the things that I, want to make sure that our audience and our friends and our families to remember is like, don't ignore it.
Right.
Don't ignore the signs. Don't ignore the things. Go see what's going on.
What's insane, and I think this is like it is like kind of the impetus of why we started doing this. I was listening to this book called Boys Adrift.
Oh yeah.
It's an incredible book. I think we should do an episode on if you get the chance to read or listen to it in the next little bit. He's telling a story about this kid who's kind of in a lot of trouble, gets hooked up with an older gentleman who's going to kind of offers him a job, and he says, "Hey, I just need you to pull all the nails out of this pile of wood here. When you're done with that, I got something else for you to do." Job probably should have taken like half an hour. Dude goes back to check in on the boy. About an hour later, and he's finished one board. And he's like, "Well, show me what you're doing here. Like, what's going on? How come you're not done?" Nobody had shown him how to use the claw side.
Oh, right.
He was hammering the nails and just super frustrated. And here he is, this boy's, 14, 15 years old, has nobody's shown him how to use that hammer. Nobody's shown him the claw into the hammer to pull out the nails. And so, we're the generation that instructs the next generation. And we can't lose sight of that. When we lose sight of that, these young men they're seeking influence elsewhere. They're seeking influence from the fucking Jake Pauls or the YouTube influencers, the M&Ms or these people from the street or TV that may not necessarily have it right.
Sure. Well, and yeah, I mean, you're putting in what you're putting in, right? Is at some point some sort of knowledge,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And what you're failing probably is the fact that you don't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It works in this weird way of if I just asked, or if I just went and seek to find more answers, maybe I'd find the answer a little quicker as opposed to like banging my head against the wall.
Right.
Or like you said, like, the walls are in front of me and here I go. I'm just going to stand there and wait for the door to be open as opposed to just move a little bit to the right and open the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so too. I think like with that idea of men or young men who don't have a group of people around them to help them and to influence them will wander lost.
Yep.
And they'll guess.
Yeah.
We had Tristan's 21st birthday and I remember like talking to people and just telling them like, thank you so much for what you've done for my son.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for jiu-jitsu or the fact of the men that he's around, he might be a different man.
It definitely takes a village. It definitely does a village. And you're a great father. You're a great father, but there's probably ways that, and he posted the other day about Professor and Nick, and I'm like, there's ways that they've had a positive influence on his life, right? Like, and that's not demeaning to you. It's the comprehensive, right? It's the comprehensive of it all.
Yeah, it's all compounding.
Yeah,
and then like when you talk about a village of men who influence people, right? You need to put you need to put them around, and you need to encourage them to be around people that will lift them up, that will call them out on their bullshit, and then hopefully they do that for somebody else. So hopefully they do that for somebody. Hopefully they in return help somebody that needs help. And I think that that community that we have and the community that we're building is just those things. Is just that, right? Like somebody's sick, boom, everybody's there.
Yeah.
Somebody needs help. Okay, cool, got you.
Yeah.
Somebody's down. All right, we'll lift you up.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to be humbled. I got you on that too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Professor was talking about it yesterday, and it was like, the journey that he's been through to get to where he's at now. Maybe that's why. Maybe the journey was, and all the shit that he went through, and all the people that have quit, and all the guys that have taken advantage of him, and all the bullshit. But then you look around of all these people that got together for Tristan's birthday, and everybody was like, I mean, that's our friendship. That's our friend.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm lucky because, two of my best buddies, you and Tristan, are part of that community.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can imagine my life, what it would be like right now without what I have, in this life. And I hope to encourage other men and encourage people to continue to do that.
Yeah.
I was talking to Braxton today, and I was telling him that I was like really grumpy today. And part of it, I think, was that I always listen to the same podcasts, always listen to the same music. But the last couple of days, I've been listening to Lost Boy Scouts on the Left, and they're great sometimes.
Oh, Last Podcast on the Left.
Last podcast on the Left. I said last podcast.
Yeah.
Last podcast on the Left. But this one was about Charles Manson. The last one's.
Oh yeah.
And I think that it also causes me to be a little grumpy because I'm listening to the story and like I'm kind of like imagining myself. And Braxton was talking about that. He's like, yeah, because he's like, you kind of imagine yourself when you watch like these movies, those movies like death and torture, whatever, all that crazy shit, porn. You put yourself there, right? And then if it's a negative context, you kind of start to feel sympathy for some of these people because these people are characters, right? Like Charles Manson's a character, so you kind of like start to feel sympathy for him in some things because that's kind of what they want. They want you to feel a little sympathy for him because they are telling us the story. And I remember during part one of the hosts was like, "This is awesome." And he was talking about how Charles Manson had masked a murder, but he's like, "That's not what I meant. I didn't mean awesome. I don't even know what I meant, but it was like, in his mind, that's how he was describing it.
Yeah.
Like, awesome. Holy crap. Look what he was doing. Getting away with shit. It's like, I think I probably needed to. So then today I was like, I'm not listening to this shit no more. I told you the same thing about the Lori Daybell.
Yeah.
I told you the same thing. I kind of felt like aching after I listened to it, and I don't like that feeling.
Yeah. No, you definitely, everything in moderation, right? And I oddly enough, I listened to that same episode. Did you ever listen to it? And I don't remember. Did they play any of Charles Manson's music?
Yes.
It's oddly good.
It is oddly good.
It's oddly good.
Hey, he's a good voice.
Yeah.
Well, then we're talking about the fact that like
and he wrote for like the Beach Boys.
Yeah, dude.
And you're like, what?
Well, I mean, the fact that he is really charismatic, right?
Yeah. I mean, it made him a perfect leader. But you're right. Like, I have to listen. Like, I have to listen to. Okay, I'm going to listen to this one series, and then I'm going.
I gotta go find some
something else. Yeah. Because it's true. Where your mind goes, the energy flows, right? And so if you're sitting in that kind of darkness, you're inviting that darkness into your life. So I totally.
And I had some rough, I had a rough couple of days with wrestling stuff and just being a little discouraged with some of the things that were going on. But then I have to remind myself, like, man, I'm around these young men and young women, and encouraging them to be better. And here I am, grumpy as shit. And I was talking to Misty, and she's like, "Okay, let's get off the phone And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And she's like, "Yeah, I know, because your voice, I can tell in your voice that you're grumpy."
Yeah.
And I was like, in my head, I was like, "No, you can't." But I could hear the fact that I probably was.
Yeah.
Like just a little like. Urgh.
Yeah.
And then, I didn't train yesterday. I trained Sunday. Sunday's training was insane because there was so many people on the mat, but it was quick, because I was cooking, so I needed to get the grill going. Will and I were trying to get the grill going, so I didn't really get a good training on Sunday. But I think like for when we, taking care of yourself is everything, right? Mental, physical, spiritual, and making it like this everything that you can, everything that you can be, everything that you can fix or improve. You should. Education, learn to get better, learn to figure out how to make yourself better as a man is important in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah.
And I hope when people listen to our stories, that's what they get from it.
Yeah.
You know, that we're still just real men who go through these real life situations and have to be there for each other, or you know, help each other figure things out.
And we need each other. We need other men. It's really important, and I think that's one of the things this book says in Boys Adrift, like boys of single mothers. This um, I'm forgetting the author's name, something Leonard Sachs.
Okay.
He basically says, if you are a single mom, find a group of men, vet a group of men or an activity where your boys can go be around other men. Um,
Yeah, it's important.
it is. It is. Yeah, it absolutely is. You've been doing some big things with wrestling too. What's going on?
Yeah, so we took the girls to Spokane to women's nationals. That was really fun. That was a really good experience for the girls. We've got the U.S. Open coming up in the next week.
Yeah.
Things are kind of winding down. The kids are getting summeritis, and I can only imagine those poor kids in Park City because they've been in the snow for the last, since November. It's been snowing there, and all of a sudden they get a little bit of grass and they get a little bit of sunshine, and next thing you know, they don't want to be stuck in a wrestling room. And so our numbers kind of went down, which I got a little discouraged about, but it's okay. Like, they'll get there, and we'll have kids coming out, and their kids are getting better. I got there today, and we almost had a private with these two kids, and I was able to like really walk them through positions, walk them through where they're struggling, and they were like so excited. They were like, "That was one of the best practices we've had, coach." Um, I really want to give a huge shout out to our friend Nick Jackson. Park City baseball is number 2 in the state right now, 2 in the state, and I went and watched them today. And dude, I would highly recommend, if you're in the Park City, if you're in the Wasatch Back or Wasatch, if you're in that Park City area, go watch the baseball team. They are amazing. Those kids, the way that they are excited, the way they're playing, they were knocking the ball. They were doing everything. They were talking, they were chatting, they were chirping. It was awesome. And I was watching Dave Fiesler and Nick Jackson, who are our friends, and they were just the whole group of the whole staff. They were having such a good time. And I don't know a lot of kids because I'm not in the school a lot, but I definitely know a lot of the kids that are on the team, and they were all like, "Hey, coach," and they would come and give me knuckles, and it was a good environment to be around. So if you get a moment, like I said, they're number 2 in the state right now. Their goal was to score 20 points in baseball.
Dang.
And they were at 11 in the 5th inning when I was there.
Dang.
11, and they were still going. And I think they even had some of their younger kids playing, running the bases and everything. And so, huge shout out to Nick Jackson, and Dave Fiesler and the group of coaches that they've got there with the kids.
See, just important to have good coaches. Always good coaches, like good mentors, good.
Yeah, just be positive. Be positive.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a benefit for being a high school coach, is you're around the other sports and stuff, and those guys. And so, that's fun. Summer camp is getting ready to get in full swing with like announcements. I mean, some of these announcements, these fights that they're.
I'm watching it from the hospital, and I'm just like, I'm just blown away.
Yeah. How about it, man, Nick?
Yeah.
Nick's taking a fight.
I'm ready.
Oh, I'm so excited for him. Adam's
taking a fight. Huge.
It is big. I know some more fights that are potential matchups going on. Jeff Curran is doing his super fights event in September in Chicago, and I know some guys that are on that card, and I'm excited for that as well. I know some of the potential matchups that could potentially happen for Jeff and that super fight. So those announcements will keep coming out, and there's just so much good stuff going on for our little community. And we go back to, if you had any kind of idea, or if you have any interest in trying jiu-jitsu, Anthony has his school in Hebert.
It's never been easier.
We have our school in Park City. There's so much you can do. There's so many people you can go around, and you can be a part of the community. You can see what we're talking about. You can be a part of that family and learn how to navigate that world and see what it's like. and I would just highly encourage you to come check us out. Come see us. I mean, we tease about come see us on Sundays, and some people took that the wrong way, but the fact of the matter is we just want you to come on the mat.
Yeah.
Come see us. Come hang out with us. Come be a part of our community and give yourself to it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we're kidding, but we're not kidding, right? Like, we talked about that in that episode, and I wrote a Substack post about it. Like, the feedback we got was from a nice young lady that was misguided in our
what we were seeing,
what we were saying, right?
I mean, we meant what we said.
Yeah, we definitely meant what we said.
We definitely meant what we said.
If you disagree, come disagree. Like, we'll work it out. And like, I mean, we're gonna bump knuckles. Somebody's gonna tap, and it's okay. Well, maybe we'll be better friends after.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Always
we'll see. Eye to eye. That's the beauty of it. Like, that's that kind of competition is being bred out of our school system right now. So,
yeah,
feels so good to be back in the groove of these conversations and just chatting, man. I'm so grateful for you, Dan.
I'm happy to see you here.
Yeah.
I'm glad that my best buddy is like on the mend.
Yeah.
That your body did its job, and that you had the successes that you had after that initial initial shock of what it was, and then it's like, okay, now we're back on the trending upward.
Yep.
And so I think I love you.
And thank you.
And I appreciate everything about you.
Summer camp, sign up for summer camp. Anything else you got going on?
Just man, like trying to we're doing the fundraising again for the super fights in the camp, and we have that going on. So if you're interested in being a sponsor or having your name out there with involved in the camp or the super camp, then I'm going to get a hold of people. I've got an email. I've got got a sponsorship deck that we're presenting here in the next couple of weeks, and so appreciate that, and appreciate all the help that goes into those things, and hopefully the warm weather's coming, and I'm
gonna do some episodes from the bus.
Let's do it
as soon as we can. Maybe we can get the next episode.
Yeah. As soon as you're good, as soon as you're healthy.
Outside is okay as long as it's not super windy, right? Like, I can do as long as I'm separated, and like they say, windy dust storms, like stay out of that. But like, I'm good. There aren't people outside. You know what I mean?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm gonna plug one thing. I got 28 blood products. If you have the opportunity to go donate blood, go donate blood. Man, I used to be an avid blood donor in Colorado. They'd come to my office at work, and I'd donate.
Have you ever donated marrow?
I have not donated. I've donated plasma, but I don't know.
Marrow, I heard, is painful. What is do you know your
my blood type is O positive, O negative, whatever the most universal was.
Mine is O positive, I think.
Yeah.
But I can only give blood to my
blood type.
My blood type. Like, my blood type is rare because I can give it to only people with my blood type are allowed to get my blood type. So we're O's.
Yeah.
No wonder we're such good buddies.
Yeah. It's that interesting side story. I was talking to another gentleman who had a flavor of leukemia that I had, who did have to have a bone marrow transplant. It changed his blood type. It changed his blood type and his bone marrow type. He received bone marrow from his son, and it changed his blood type to his son's blood type.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Bodies are weird.
And so there's some.
Yeah, go give blood. Go and man, if you can. I mean, I'm sure there's ways to visit patients to go and like volunteer and hang out with them, and they always brightens up their day. And
sure,
being a part of that giving community is important. So
yeah. Well, cheers, everybody. Thank you. Until next time. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Rise up, don't turn it back.